The night of May 2nd, 2025, inside the Victoria's Sports Palace in Brest, Belarus, carried a quiet tension that only true boxing followers could feel. The kind that doesn't scream spectacle, but hums with meaning. Because this was not simply another professional bout. It was a collision between eras, between pedigree and momentum, between a seasoned global campaigner and an undefeated technician climbing steadily towards something bigger. Carlos Gongora of Ecuador walked first, the southpaw veteran framed by years of international warfare. A two-time Olympian whose amateur resume stretched across continents, Olympics, World Championships, Pan American podiums, and world title success in the professional ranks. A man whose experience could not be taught or replicated, only earned the hard way. Every step toward the ring felt deliberate, measured, as though he knew exactly what awaited him and accepted it fully. Gongora had been here before. Bright lights, hostile crowds, high stakes. And while his record showed setbacks, those losses came against elite, undefeated fighters, men groomed for the upper tiers of the sport. Across the ring waited Pavel Silyagin of Russia, undefeated, composed, technically polished, his confidence built not from bravado, but from repetition, precision, and control. A former world championship medalist in the IBA system, Silyagin brought with him the silent thread of mastery, a fighter who understood distance the way chess players understand squares on a board. This bout, set just above the light heavyweight limit at 79.4 kilograms, scheduled for 8 rounds, was not about fireworks. It was about authority. From the opening bell, the contrast became clear. Gongora, the southpaw in black trimmed with gold, sought rhythm, timing, and space, while Silyagin, in white trimmed with gold, immediately imposed geography, dictating where exchanges would happen and where they would not. A sharp right jab from Silyagin punctured the silence early, not thrown with malice but with intent, followed by fluid lateral movement that forced Gongora to reset before he could establish offense. The Russian's feet glided, pivoting subtly left and right, never static, never predictable, as if he was already 2 beats ahead in the fight's tempo. Gongora responded with veteran calm, flicking his jab, probing, measuring, looking for lanes to thread his straight left hand, but each attempt was met with Silyagin's disciplined guard and crisp countering. Midway through the round, a beautifully timed corkscrew right from Silyagin snapped Gongora's head back just enough to send a message, not of power, but of control. There was no panic in either corner, no rushed exchanges, only high-level chess being played at full speed. Silyagin began layering his attack, jab to body, jab upstairs, step off at an angle, denying Gongora a static target. The Ecuadorian sought to close distance, but each step forward cost him a clean shot as Silyagin ghosted away and reset the terms again. As the round drew to a close, the pattern was emerging clearly. Silyagin was finding his range immediately, asserting rhythm, while Gongora, though composed, was being forced into reaction rather than initiation. The bell sounded, and while no damage told a dramatic story yet, those watching closely understood the subtext. This was a fight where margins mattered, and early control often foretold later dominance. Round 2 unfolded with a subtle but significant escalation, as Silyagin transitioned from rangefinder to architect, beginning to build combinations that flowed seamlessly from head to body and back again, forcing Gongora into defensive patterns that slowly eroded his freedom. The Russian's jab became sharper, more assertive, snapping between Gongora's gloves with timing that disrupted any attempt at sustained offense. Each successful entry by Gongora was met with layered responses: jab, right hand, pivot, exit, leaving the southpaw veteran swinging at air more often than not. A rib-rattling shot to the body from Silyagin drew a brief grimace, not of pain, but of frustration, as Gongora realized his guard was being dissected from multiple levels. The Ecuadorian tried to answer with his left uppercut to the body and a straight left upstairs, and while the intent was there, the consistency was not. Silyagin was simply beating him to the punch. Halfway through the round, pressure mounted as Silyagin pinned Gongora near the ropes, unloading a compact 3-punch combination that ended with a perfectly placed right hand upstairs, forcing Gongora to clinch momentarily to halt the momentum. The referee allowed clean work, and the message was clear. This was a contest where intelligent aggression would be rewarded. Gongora, to his credit, never panicked. He adjusted his stance, dipped at the knees, added head movement, and attempted to draw counters, but the Russian's discipline held firm. Silyagin varied his angles beautifully, stepping just outside the southpaw lead foot, nullifying Gongora's strongest weapon before it could fully fire. By the end of the second round, body language began to speak volumes. Gongora turned his palms upward briefly, a gesture that betrayed confusion, not fear, an acknowledgement that the puzzle in front of him was growing more complex by the second. Silyagin, meanwhile, returned calmly to his corner, breathing evenly, his expression unchanged, a man fully aware that he was imposing his will without overcommitting. The crowd sensed it too. This was high-level boxing, the kind that rewards patience and punishes inefficiency. 2 rounds gone, and while nothing decisive had occurred, the momentum had tilted firmly in one direction, guided by precision rather than power. Round 3 marked the moment where experience fought back against control, as Carlos Gongora made his first meaningful adjustments, increasing head movement, changing levels, and quickening his feet to disrupt Silyagin's timing. Early in the round, a sharp southpaw left from Gongora finally landed clean, drawing a nod of respect and a brief recalibration from the Russian. For the first time, Silyagin was forced to reset rather than dictate, and the exchange ignited the competitive spirit inside the ring. Gongora pressed forward with more urgency, mixing right hooks and left crosses, trying to establish sustained offense rather than single shots. Still, Silyagin responded with calm efficiency, spinning out of danger, answering body shots with sharp jabs upstairs, reminding Gongora that each risk carried a cost. Midway through the round, the Ecuadorian found pockets of success, particularly when he dipped low and fired upstairs, forcing Silyagin to adjust his guard momentarily. But even as Gongora showed signs of life, the Russian's composure never wavered. He answered back with crisp counters, stepped around the pocket, and reclaimed the center of the ring with calculated footwork. As the round closed, it felt closer, Gongora's best work of the fight, but the narrative remained unchanged. Flashes of resistance versus sustained control. The bell sounded, and while Gongora had shown he could adapt, the question lingered. Could he do it consistently enough and at the pace required to truly swing the contest? Entering the 4th and 5th rounds, Silyagin reasserted his authority with veteran poise, seamlessly blending offense and defense into a cohesive, suffocating rhythm that once again forced Gongora onto the back foot. The Russian doubled and tripled his jab, snapping Gongora's head back, then dropping clean shots to the body that drained energy and narrowed options. Gongora, now aware that time was slipping, tried to increase volume, but each exchange favored Silyagin's efficiency. Whenever Gongora found brief success, Silyagin responded immediately, ensuring judges remembered who controlled the narrative. The Russian's ringcraft shone brightest here, pivoting out of corners, baiting attacks, and punishing openings with surgical precision. Gongora's effort never wavered, but his effectiveness declined as Silyagin's layered pressure took hold. By the end of the 5th round, the dynamic was unmistakable, one fighter dictating terms, the other searching desperately for leverage that refused to appear. The final rounds played out like the closing chapters of a technical masterclass, as Pavel Silyagin maintained his composure, protected his lead, and denied Carlos Gongora any realistic path to a late turnaround. Though Gongora showed flashes of pride and resilience, landing occasional southpaw shots and refusing to fold, the Russian's control never loosened. He varied pace, worked behind his jab, and continued to exploit angles that kept him one step ahead until the final bell. When the fight ended, there was no mystery. 8 rounds complete, the judges rendered a unanimous decision in favor of Pavel Silyagin, extending his unbeaten run and cementing his status as a disciplined, elite-level technician capable of neutralizing even the most experienced opposition. For Gongora, the night served as a reminder of boxing's unforgiving margins, and for Silyagin, it marked a statement victory, earned not through recklessness, but through intelligence, patience, and complete command of the craft.